what we covered in the last class. We have deployed a distributed switch at vCenter level and added the host into the distributed switch. And what we did, we have a couple of workloads that are running on standard switch, right? Those are Linux, whatever. These workloads, we have migrated them onto distributed switch without any downtime. This we tested. And one more scenario what we discussed, these migrations and stuff. Okay, but in which situation you can do normally when you're trying to upgrade your existing network from 1 GB network to a 10 GB network means if this is 1 GB network, the standard switch is configured and you got the new distributed switch along with the upgraded license, along with the upgraded hardware or network hardware, I'll say, and you want to migrate everything over the 10 GB network. So in this situation, also you will do the migration in bulk. This is what we tested. Okay, so a couple of more scenarios on this. Uh, One thing what we discussed is, can we create a multiple kernel ports on ESXi host or not? Can we create multiple kernel ports on ESXi host or not? I've shown you in the previous sessions,
We can create.
right? So I have created couple of kernel ports. Okay, so far what we did, we have migrated the machines from standard network to distributed network. Means from standard port groups to distributed port groups, we migrated. Now I want to migrate the kernel ports as well. How to do the kernel ports migrations? We'll see. Means, let me clear this off. I have one host. I have one host. Just a moment. Okay, I have one host where I have one kernel port and one port group, two different switches. One is used for kernel port and one is used for port groups. And I have created one distributed switch for port groups. Now I have two kernel ports here. Imagine, can I create at multiple kernel ports on the same switch? Yes, we can create. So I want to migrate one of the kernel port from here to here. I want to do that. Let's see. But we are not going to achieve anything by doing this. Okay, because when you are creating a kernel port or when you are doing a kernel port migration means you are touching each and every host manually, because each and every host has a kernel port and you need to go to the each host and do the manual work. You need to assign IP, all these things, right? So you are not going to minimize, or in terms of administration, you are not going to minimize any manual work. Okay, only thing is distributed switch also supports a kernel port, and also you can run your couple of workloads over the distributed switch. Let's say what all the things that kernel port can do. I've shown you around 5 or 6 different tasks that kernel port can do. Management, okay, and vMotion, vSAN, HA, right? FT logging, and so on, right? Some of these things that kernel port will do. Okay, now I want to migrate one of the kernel port from here to here. How to do that? Let's see. So first of all, let me go to any switch, configure switches, standard switch. We have only one kernel port. Can I add one more kernel port on this? Or let's do kernel adapter. I'll add one kernel adapter to existing switch, fine. Okay, VM kernel 2 for which purpose? Management only, and use IPv4 settings. These things you have to manually perform, right? 150, because you cannot do all these things at distributed switch level. So what I'll do, ping 192.168.30.150. There's nothing. If you look at, there's nothing. So let me go to finish, and you see started pinging. Now you are accessing kernel port over 0 and 1. This is second kernel port, right? So this is communicating via like this. Okay. Now what I want to do, I want to migrate this kernel port from standard switch to distributed switch. Standard switch to distributed switch. How to do that? Let's go to networking, distributed switch. Right click, add manage host, manage host networking. Next, added host, first host, right? Next, now you see a couple of options: manage kernel adapters, manage physical adapters, manage virtual machine networking, manage kernel adapters. Next, so this kernel adapter, I want to migrate. Okay, assign a port group. It is on VLAN 30. Actually, I created with the DB VLAN. Okay, but I'll have to rename it first. Let me rename in such a way. DB VLAN 30, edit settings. What I will do, management VLAN 30, because all my hosts are running on VLAN 30. So I just rename the port group just for my understanding. So again, manage host networking, add host. Next, I want to manage the physical kernels, kernel 1, which is assign management VLAN. Now it is going to migrate onto this. Understood? Okay. So before that, let me ping 192.168.30.150. It's pinging. So I'm migrating onto distributed port group. No impact. Finish. See, it's still functioning. There's no ping lost. Now, if you go to host switch 0, it's gone here. And if you go to distributed switch, and on VLAN 30, management VLAN 30, there is a kernel port here. You see 150. Now it is communicating via distributed switch. But you're not going to achieve anything, because each and every kernel port you have to migrate manually. If you have 1,000 hosts, all the 1,000 kernel ports you have to migrate like this. Okay, or else can we do one thing? Let me delete this kernel adapter. Gone. Okay, I've deleted the kernel adapter. Okay, so what I will do, let's do one thing. For kernels, I have a 3 different hosts, right? I have three different hosts, right? So all the hosts have two empty ports. So we'll do one thing. We'll create a kernel port the empty ones, on the empty ones, and what I will do, I have distributed switch as well. Last one is distributed switch, right? So VLAN 10, 20, 30. Is there VLAN 50? Let me check. We'll do different scenarios. 1.100. VLAN 50 is there, no? We'll use VLAN 50. Okay. So I'll use VLAN 50 on each host. Let me do this. New kernel adapter. Okay. I want to create a new switch on each host. Remember. And I have two empty cables. I'll take both the cables and vMotion. This will be used for vMotion, VLAN 50, vMotion. Next, 192.168.50.51. 50.51 is the IP, right? And override 50.1 is the gateway. Don't forget. Finish. Let's see. New switch has been created with VLAN ID 50 and IP is 51. So let's try pinging 50.51. It's pinging. Okay. Now 50.52. Let's see. It is not pinging. Okay. So go to second host and add networking, kernel adapter, new switch. On the second host, I'm doing it. And use two cables. Next. Again, it's vMotion only. Okay. And vMotion VLAN ID 50. What is the IP? 192.168.50.52. Guys, getting it? What I'm trying to establish? On the second host, see, started pinging. Okay, and go to third host. There is no second standard switch. So let me create a kernel port. New switch. Another two free cables. Motion. Next, what is the IP? 192.168.50.53. And gateway is 50.1 is the gateway, right? So in all the three hosts, I have created a new switch and new switch with name vMotion and one kernel port. Means in all the three hosts, I have a new kernel port called vMotion that will be used for vMotion going forward. Just for an example. Okay. Now everything is running on standard switch. Standard switch. So I want to migrate all the kernel ports which belongs to vMotion from standard switch to distributed switch. Reason, reason, recollect the previous example. I have 1 GB network on a standard switch, and second option is 10 GB network in distributed switch. So if I bring from standard switch to distributed switch, okay, what I'm achieving, those vMotion kernel ports will start communicating from 1 GB network to 10 GB network. Means the speed will be 10 times faster than the existing network. but I don't want to interrupt anything. If I want to do the live migration, how to do that? Let's see. So go to distributed switch. Guys, following? Any confusion? Let me know. Vivek,
No, sir.
Sunil,
Yes, sir.
Sunil, following, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So I want to create. Is there any VLAN 50? Is there any port group that belongs to VLAN 50? No, right? So you
No.
need to create new distributed port group here. I'll say this will be used for vMotion only. Okay. And how many ports? 128. Example. And VLAN. What is the VLAN ID? 50. Next. Finish. So there is a, oh my god. Let me edit settings. vMotion VLAN 50. Just for our standard naming convention. Okay, understood? So this port group will be used to send the kernel port data out using two uplinks only. There's no other uplinks, only existing two uplinks. Okay, now how to do the migration? Right click, add and manage host, manage host networking. Next, attach all the host. Okay, now you are trying to manipulate all the three hosts. What you're trying to manipulate, physical adapters or virtual machines or kernel ports? I want to manipulate or manage kernel ports. Next, you see each has two kernel ports. You see one is vMotion, another one is management network. I don't want to touch the management network. Let's leave the management network in standard switch only. So let's bring the vMotion into distributed switch, because management you log in, log off, right click, left click, and right click create VM and go to logs. You'll view and just few mouse clicks you will perform via management network. Means you are not going to send huge data over the management network. Very rarely you will send. Means the management network is fine to run on 1 GB network. But vMotion is migrating virtual machine from one host to another host without any downtime. Okay, the VM size is 1 TB. Now you are migrating VM from one host to another host, and the RAM size is 32 GB RAM. Okay, so you need a faster network or not? So if you
Yes.
want to migrate the existing VM from one host to another host over the uh, kernel port called vMotion, you need a faster network. So company has decided to upgrade from 1 GB network to 10 GB network. Now the existing kernel ports, the vMotion kernel ports, are configured over 1 GB with standard switch or standard switch. Right? So now the plan is to migrate all the kernel ports which are running on standard switch, switch 1, vSwitch 1, to distributed switch. On the distributed switch, there is a dedicated port group called vMotion, that is VLAN 50. Okay, so let's assign for this kernel port. I need to assign destination port group. From where? From vMotion kernel port to destination port group vMotion VLAN 50. This has been assigned. And for this, assign vMotion port group. This has been assigned. For third host, assign vMotion assign. So all the three kernel ports will migrate from source port group vMotion to destination vMotion VLAN 50, which is on distributed switch. This is on standard switch. Next, no iSCSI configured. Finish. That's it. Now you can ping any of these. It's pinging. It's pinging, right? Three of them are pinging. No downtime, nothing. So if you go back and go to switch 0, there's nothing. It become empty because you migrated the kernel port from this switch to distributed switch under vMotion kernel port 53. Understood?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So now you are free to remove the switch. This switch is no longer required. Again, you free up the two physical cables. This is how you migrate your kernel ports from standard switch to distributed switch. Got it? Hmm? If I want to migrate back, how to? It's a bit tricky. Let's try. Host networking. I want to migrate back to standard switch. For one host, we will try. I never tried it in real time, but let's try here. Kernel adapters. Okay. See, there's no option to select any standard. Any standard. There's no option to select any standard network. All right. So the only option is you have to go back to individual host, add networking, kernel adapter. Next, select the existing network. New network, and let me try this. Next, you're creating it now. Existing network, vMotion. Next, let me vMotion. It's creating now. It's not. Should not create. Cancel. Select the switch. It's not showing up the standard one. Okay, man, the options gone here. Normally, you have a migrate kernel port like this. Let me check this out. Kernel adapters. This here 30.51. Okay, and this one. So here 50.1 static IP fine. Add it. Adapter. Okay. So switch 0. Next. Kernel adapter. Let me try. This is not going to work. No, man, there's no option. I didn't see option, but I'll have to figure it out. To migrate back, it's a bit tricky option. Let me see if there is anything. One last try. Okay. So, okay. Assign port group. Only the distributed port groups are showing up. Okay, I might need another adapter, another switch and stuff, which I'm really not sure. Okay, let's park this aside. Migrating back, I'm failure. Okay, so this is one thing we tested today. One more thing, there's another concept called, so I have migrated from here to here, from standard to distributed, but distributed to standard is not visible. That I'll have to figure it out, but I never seen the situations where you migrated back. Okay, but it should be there somewhere, some tricky options we need to do, but I'll try to figure it out. If I found, fine, otherwise it's okay, it's not a big deal. Okay, but there is another concept here, guys. Following, understood what I'm trying to explain here?
Yes.
There is another concept called, okay, let's take this example. I have one virtual machine. Okay, and can I assign two network cards to machine? Can I assign two network
Yes.
cards to a machine? Virtual machine I'm talking about.
Yes. Yes.
Physical server, how many NIC cards you can assign? I said, based on the requirement, you can add up to 16 physical NIC cards, right? Similarly,
Yes.
there is a virtual machine, and it has two it has two adapters, 192, 168, 30 dot, sorry, 10 dot 51 is production. Okay, and I want to assign another IP, 192, 168, uh, 60 dot 51. Okay, what is the purpose? What is the purpose? Backup. You know, have you seen the configurations? Normally, you'll take a backup of your virtual machine over different network and send it to some different destination server. You'll have a backup server 192, 168, 60.2 is the server example. Okay, and customer is using this server, and let's go to VPN, and customer will use like this. So same machine, customer will come and use like this. And if you want to take a backup of C drive, backup of D drive, backup of E drive, the data goes via like this. But the problem is you cannot assign gateway to two different NICs. You have already assigned gateway 10.1 to this IP. For this, you cannot assign gateway. Only you can do is you can have a subnet assigned, and you need to have static route. Okay, you need to add a static route. How to? Let's see. See, there's a syntax. Route add so and so address, subnet mask, so and so gateway, and the matrix. You need to add like this. Okay, if you want to check the routes, route print. You see, these are the default routes configured on this host. So this persistent route, there's nothing called persistent route here. You need to add a persistent route if you add a second NIC card to this machine. Okay, remember. Now there is a concept called private VLAN. Okay, let's see what it is. VMware. If I go to images, okay, see, there's an image called. There is one host, or there are some VMs which you are putting on VLAN 500. Okay, these VMs are running on VLAN 500. You can create this you call it as promiscuous, where the actual traffic will go to routers or firewalls. Okay, now you can create one more isolated VLAN called 501. 501 means these VMs cannot talk to each other, but these VMs can talk to this. And one more secondary private VLAN 502 and community VMs. These VMs can talk to together and cannot talk to isolated VMs and can talk to primary private VLAN. Means in this picture he explained well, but the scenario is something like this. Something like this. Let me draw a simple picture. Let's see if we are able to test it well and good. Otherwise, it's fine. At least I'll explain in theory. Okay, I said, boss, there is a concept called backup. So you have a backup server. Everything in one data center I'm talking about. Okay, there is a backup server. Okay, and you have one VM. You have another VM, and you have another VM. You have another VM. So take these two are in community VLAN, community private VLAN, and take these two VMs are on isolated VLAN. Okay. Reason is I said two cables will be there, or I said two network cards will be there for each machine. Listen carefully. Can I do that? Possible? Yes. So this side, these cables are connected to some switch. Imagine virtual switch or a physical that further goes to physical switch and further goes to here you have a virtual switch, right? On each VM is go and connect to some virtual switch. That virtual switch in turn connected to physical switch. This physical switch in turn connected to VPN. Customer is using, four machines are responding. Fine. There is no topic of private VLAN. On the front side, this is on the front side. On the back side, I have one more NIC card on the each machine, and I put it on private VLAN called 60 61. 61. Okay, and private VLAN called 62. And actually, this server is sitting on VLAN 60. This server is sitting on VLAN 60. What is the VLAN 60 IP? 60.1 to 60.254 means my VLAN 60 is dedicated for backup purpose. Remember. So if I create a VLAN private VLAN 61 with isolated, this VM can send a traffic to this, and this VM can send a traffic to this. Means for this you have to assign one IP. For this you have to assign one IP. This IP and this IP can ping this IP. Means 60.2 is the IP for this machine. Can I assign 60.2 for this machine? Yes. And 60.3 is the IP for this machine. 60.4 is the IP for this machine. Forget about front end. Front end 10.61, 10.21, 30.5, 80.99, whatever the front end IP customer is using. I'm not bothered about all these things. On the back end, 60.3, 60.4, 60.3. Everything is on one VLAN only, right? Everything is on one VLAN. Agree? If I send a packet, it should broadcast across VLAN. Agree or disagree?
Yes, agree.
Okay. I'm sorry. But these two machines, these two machines cannot talk to each other. 60.3 can ping 60.2, 60.4 can ping 60.2, but 60.3 cannot ping 4, 60.4 cannot ping 60.3 because both are in isolated VLAN. Understood? That is the meaning of isolated. Similarly, I'll create one more VLAN called community VLAN, and I'll say 60.5 IP to this, 60.6 IP to this, and these two also can send a traffic to this, and these two can talk to each other, and these two cannot talk to this. If 6.4 want to talk to 6.5, no, sorry, 3, sorry, but 5 and 6, okay, 4 and 6, no, sorry. Understood? If you want to establish these kind of securities in place, you can use private VLAN within the
Data center.
distributed switch, not the data center. Okay. So how to create a private VLAN? I'll show you. Go back, distributed switch, right click, new port group, backup, VLAN, private VLAN 60. Understood? Next, 254 IP addresses, private VLAN, private VLAN is not configured for this distributed switch. Okay, fine. No. Configure switch, private VLAN, edit, add private VLAN. What is the private VLAN ID? 60. And add, what is the community VLAN ID? 61. Add, what is the isolated VLAN ID? 62. Put isolated. Understood? Okay. Private VLAN is configured. Now go and create port group, backup underscore PVLAN 60. Next, private VLAN 254. Next, finish. So backup private VLAN 60 has been created. What I will do, I will create one more port group, backup private VLAN 61. Next, and I should not put 254, it's okay. Private VLAN 61 community port group. Okay, and one more backup underscore bit tricky part. So try to concentrate 62. I should not give this many ports. It's okay. Let's do it. Private VLAN 62 isolated. So let's do the isolated VLAN testing. So what I will do, I will go to virtual machine. I will take ESXi host 1 or host 3 and VMs. What are the VMs we have? 7, 8, 9. 7 I will put on promiscuous and 8 and 9 I'll put on isolated. Understood? Right click, edit settings, 7, 8, 9. More VLANs, backup, 60. 60 is promiscuous. Fine. And edit settings. Second VM on 62. Edit settings. 62. Okay. Let me power on 3 of them. Okay. So open console. 60 VLAN, right? One 92, 168, 60.2 is the IP, and 60.1 is the gateway. Right? Let me go to terminal. Let me see. 68, 60.1. There's no VLAN configured, man. 60. Gateway itself is not pinging. Okay, let's do one thing. Nothing to worry. 50.2, 50.1. It's not pinging. So let me go to switch, edit. It's okay. It is already being in use. You cannot modify it. Edit settings. Okay, I'll put it on 50. Done. If you look at, uh, strange. 1 second. Let me modify. I think first. Edit. I'll make this as 50. Okay. DB port group 182. Let me do one thing. Let me power off this quickly. Something bit high level networking, or I can say tricky networking concepts. You'll not use it in your basic day-to-day administration. But let's try. If it works well, very good. Still, if it won't respond to us, somewhere I'm doing a mistake. Okay, fine. It. It's not allowing me. Let's wash out. And now let's try. It should. Okay. Let me wash out this as well. Settings. Okay. Now go to here. 50, 51. It is now configured. Okay, now let me create distributed port groups. Backup 50. Here I'll say private VLAN 50. Okay, one private VLAN is created. Let me go back and assign to this backup 50. Okay, power on. Let me test this for one machine. If it is working, then we'll continue with the others rather than testing too many things. Okay, so control panel, network 192.168.50.2, 50.1, to 168.50.1. It's pinging in google.com. Okay, I think sending data to internet is not allowed on this VLAN. It's okay, not an issue. Ping 192.168.50.3. So for now 50.3 is not pinging. What I will do, next machine. Okay, edit settings. I'll put it on isolated VLAN, which is 52. So for 52, I haven't created the port group. Let me go to port group, create a port group for isolated VLAN. Backup underscore 52. Understood? Private VLAN, isolated, finish. So now edit settings on the 8th VM. 52, assign, OK, or on, open console. Okay, now control panel 192.168.50.3, 50.1. I know if I'm doing a mistake, I'm really not sure, but I'm just trying myself. See, it started pinging, right? 50.3. Now, in this, let's try to ping terminal ping ping 192.168.50.2. 50 dot from 50.3, 50.2 is also pinging both the sides. Now let's do one more thing. Go to ninth machine. Go to ninth machine, and which VLAN we should assign here? Isolated only. Go back to the picture. Two VMs in isolated VLAN. Replace 60 with 50, 50, 50.2. Imagine this is your backup server 50.2. From 50.2 pinging, from 50.3 pinging, from 50.4 it should ping back, but these two should not ping. That is what we need to test. Understood? Both are in isolated VLAN 52. Power on and open console. it is. Graphics is really one second. Strange graphics. Ping 192.168.50.2. Okay. So for that, what I have to do? Go to full screen. Network 192.168.50.4. Right? Anyway, internet is not working on it assign IP. So now terminal. See, it is now able to send it to 50.2. 50.3, it should not ping because 50.3 and 50.4 are on isolated VLAN. You got my point? What I'm trying to show you? Go to the picture. Okay, 50.3, 50.4 are on isolated VLAN called 52, and actual VM is on 50. Actual server is on promiscuous VLAN 50, and 50.2 and 3 are pinging, 50.2 and 4 are pinging, and from 3 to 2 is pinging, from 4 to 2 is pinging, but 3 and 4 cannot talk to each other because both are on related VLAN called 52. You got my point?
Yes.
Hmm? If you want, you can see in the scenario. See, 50.2 to 3, it's pinging. 50.2, it's pinging. 50.3, from 3, I'm pinging 4, it's not pinging. And from 4, I'm pinging. From 4, I'm pinging 3, it's not pinging. But if I cancel and if I ping 2, it's working. From I'll cancel, I'll ping gateway, it's not working because the promiscuous gateway is only 2. It can send only data to 2. From 2, you can ping the gateway as well. Let's see. From 50.2, go to 50.2. This is 50.2, right? So cancel. So I can ping 50.3. I can ping 50.4. I can ping 50.1. It's working. Okay. Now go back to the picture. Go back to the Google picture where we have seen. Okay. See, promiscuous 500 treat as a 50. Okay. From 50, you can send a data to external. So 50.1 is somewhere here. 50.2 is this. 50.3 and 4 are these two. Sorry, isolated. These two. You want me to draw notation? Okay. So this VM 50.2 and it can send data to gateway 50.1 and treat this as backup 50. Okay, and this is backup 52. Backup 52, and this IP is 50.3 and this IP is 50.4. So 3 and 4 there is no ping, and 3 and 2, 50.3 and 2, yes, they can ping. See this one, this green mark. Okay, and from 50.3 you can send it to data 50.2. From 50.4 you can send data to 50.3, but from 50.3 you cannot send it to 4. This is what we tested. Understood?
Yes.
Any questions? Bit high level, it's okay. Whenever you feel like you want to implement it, you can refer it. But there are a lot of things that you can do inside the distributed switch, but we'll not go too much inside. Okay, you'll get confused. So I hope you understood what all the things we covered so far in last 5 or 6 sessions during the network testing. Or if you have any specific questions, or if you have any specific scenarios you want me to explain, please let me know. Configuration steps, you can watch the video. I have made a lot of changes because 60 is not configured properly on my physical switch, so that's the reason why I've tried to. But 60 should not be there. I mean, even the 60 is there or not, it's fine, because if the switch configuration is not there, still you can try using isolated VLANs and community VLANs. Only thing is promiscuous VLAN you cannot test it. That's a different story. Okay, so any questions? I might have made some mistakes on this private VLAN because I never implemented in my customer environment so far. It's okay, but we tested it at least 50%. Okay, yeah, guys, questions? No? Yes? Few? Have to revise? You want to
Not now,
revisit
sir.
the videos?
We will check video and then
Yeah,
I will
sure.
ask tomorrow.
Okay, okay, yeah.
Some
Tomorrow,
some confusion is there in configuration. That's why.
there's no confusion. If you look at this picture, okay, I told you the scenario.
I I I I I understand scenario.
Uh, just a second, just a second. Okay, if you look at this picture, I have 4 production virtual machines. Each has front-end network, each has back-end network. So back-end network I've seen in a separate picture, and front-end as it is customer is using, there's no impact. Front-end is working fine because they have a different NIC cards. Can I use
Yes.
multiple NIC cards to the machine? Yes, you can use.
Yes.
Only thing is you cannot assign the gateways. That's it.
Okay.
Clear? We can build some more real-time scenarios on top of this, but you'll get confused.
Okay.
Okay, so just imagine, because this is one backup server which is used to dump the data. So every server's data is dumped over here via these cables. So once it is dumped, it will replicate it to another DC2. This is DC1. That comes under disaster recovery and stuff. I'll explain when we discuss about the backup and recovery and disaster recovery as well. But we will use these kind of network topologies to implement backups, especially, or some more scenarios are there. Okay, if you want to implement private VLAN. Clear?
Yes.
All right. Yeah. Let me stop here. Okay. Oh, so I'm sorry, I forgot. So tomorrow, what we will do is tomorrow we'll start with storage. So I want to understand. Okay. Okay, if you want. Oh my God, spellings. I need to storage protocols. I just ping you. You can refer what it is, how it works, and all. Okay, that we will discuss from tomorrow onwards. Again, storage will take around 6 to 7 sessions.
Okay.
Okay, so let me stop here. We'll catch up tomorrow, same time.